What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are doing something that someone suggested I do on this channel, and I thought it was an incredible idea, so we're doing it today. And that is, we're looking at the rooting guide for the Detroit Lions this weekend, and we'll probably do it for the rest of the weeks. Also, that is a book. That's supposed to be the guide. We can try to read it if we want, you know. It's a book. Let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And today, we're diving into our rooting guide for this weekend. And obviously, you root for the Detroit Lions. But aside from the Lions, who should you root for the best chance for the Lions to get into the playoffs? Now, for me personally, I don't care about the seeding. I just want to get in. We saw Washington beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Okay, that tells you where the NFL is. All you got to do is get in and you got a chance. For me, I don't care if they got the first seed, second seed, third seed, fifth seed. I don't care. Just get into the playoffs and I'll be super happy. That would be incredible if we could find a way to get into the playoffs. So who should you root for the Lions to have the best chance to get into the playoffs? Well, let's take a look. Of course, root for the Detroit Lions. Now, if they lose to the Packers, all hope is not lost. There's a lot of ways to get in at 8-8. It just means, well, you pretty much have to win the other games. But if they can beat the Packers, they will be sitting at a beautiful spot heading into the last three. I mean, gorgeous spot heading into the last three. They'll be 2-3 in the division. It'll be a great spot to sit at. And also the Lions will have an opportunity to get like literally this close from sitting in a playoff spot. Just say, for example, the Lions win this Sunday. Let's say the Lions beat the Green Bay Packers at home. They pull off the upset. I think the Packers are 8-point favorites. They pull off the upset. We're feeling good. You know, we're 6-7. Who do we need to root for to get into the playoffs? Well, the first game, let's go through all the games for the week. All the games that really matter to us. I have them here, but, you know, just so I can remember. The first game we have on Thursday is the Patriots and the Rams. This one's not super important, but root for the AFC team. When in doubt, root for the AFC team over the NFC team. When in doubt. However, that's not always the case. That's usually the case. In this case, I'm rooting for the Patriots over the Rams because, hey, you know what? Maybe you move up somehow if everybody fell apart around you. So root for the Patriots over the Rams. The next game to look at is a big one. It's the Cardinals and the Giants. The Cardinals right now sit at 6-6. They've started to slow down a little bit. And the Giants have started to turn it on, and they're 5-7. I believe they're leading that division. Let me check. I think they're leading that division. If I'm not mistaken, they are leading that division, yes. So they're leading the division. They're sitting at 5-7, which means they won't have any impact over us if they go out and win the division. So we need to root for them to win that division because we didn't get to play them. So root for them to go off, win that division. We need a team like Washington to be second to fight for the wildcard spot because we have that tiebreaker. So if somehow New York can beat the Cardinals would drop to 6-7. If we beat the Packers, would be 6-7, and we own the tiebreaker over Arizona. So technically, we'd pass the Arizona Cardinals like that. Crazy, right? Next game, Chicago and Houston. Big game as well. Who should you root for? Like I said, it would in doubt AFC over NFC. Root for the Texans here. If the Texans can beat the Bears, which I wouldn't say is impossible after what we've seen from the Bears recently, if the Texans can beat the Bears, then all of a sudden the Bears would drop to 5-8 on the season. 5-8. And that's big because, yes, we have split with them, but because of, you know, winning our FC games, things like that, we just want to get them out of the way. We just want to keep pushing them down as far as possible. Get them out of the way. Okay? Make our NFC conference wins mean a little bit less. Get them out of the way. Just get Chicago out of here. Houston beats them. They drop to 5-8. We're above them in record. That's great. I didn't even mean to do that. Next game, Minnesota, Tampa Bay. Minnesota, Tampa Bay. Minnesota right now currently sits at 6-6, and they beat us one time. We're a game back. They have the tiebreaker as of now. We get to play the last game of the season. Like I said, that'll be the most important game of the year for us, is that last game. Minnesota plays Tampa Bay. Now, technically, if you're thinking, well, maybe we get the 6th seed, root for Tampa Bay to lose, things like that. If it works out perfectly, yes. But I don't care about that. I just want to get in. So for me, root for Tampa Bay to beat Minnesota. Tampa Bay is also fighting for a wild card spot. But if Tampa Bay can beat Minnesota, Minnesota will also be 6-7. So we'll have the same record with one more game coming up in the last game of the season. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. You can't ask for anything more than that. I think I'm just hopping back in here really quickly. Let's say, for example, Tampa Bay loses this game. Minnesota wins the game. Not all hope is lost. Actually, it's not that big of a deal. It's potentially an easier path if we have a team like Minnesota lose here to Tampa Bay. But if Tampa Bay does lose to Minnesota, Tampa Bay then will fall to 7-6. If we win, we'd be 6-7. So technically, if they lost to Minnesota and we won, we then play Tampa Bay, we beat Tampa Bay, we get the tiebreaker, we would pass the Buccaneers. It sounds crazy to think that that's even a scenario, that there's a way for us to pass the Buccaneers in 2 games. I mean, it's crazy, but there's that chance. I would rather root for Tampa Bay to beat the Minnesota Vikings. That's kind of how I'm leaning towards it, because that's how I'm rooting. But even if Tampa Bay loses to Minnesota, it can still work out fine for us. It just puts a lot of emphasis then on that Tampa Bay game. Look, if they do lose to Minnesota, it's not a huge deal, but then it puts something on that Tampa Bay game, where that Tampa Bay game could potentially, if we beat the Packers, let us switch spots with them. So, I mean, guys, opportunities are endless, but it really does happen if we can beat the Packers. Not really a huge deal if Tampa Bay does lose to Minnesota, unless we lose. See, if we lose, it really screws us up if Minnesota beats Tampa Bay, because now we're falling back basically 2 games to the Minnesota Vikings, because they would have 7 wins, we would still be at 5. So if we're looking at an 8-8 scenario, you really, if you're going to lose this game, if you do lose this game, which obviously we hope it doesn't, if that happened, I definitely want Tampa Bay to beat Minnesota to keep them only 1 game out of reach. Because if they're able to get a 2-game lead, Now you're getting into a tough situation, because Tampa Bay is still ahead of you, and they still would have 7 wins, and they would be at 7-6, and you're still 2 games back from them. So even beating them would still put you behind. You would still need help. So look, 8-8 is not impossible. Let's happen that you will definitely want Tampa Bay to beat Minnesota. The next game to look at is Washington and San Francisco for next week. The final game, Washington, San Francisco. Who do you root for? I'm rooting for Washington. Reason being, we don't get to play San Fran. And if we can keep pushing them down, great. We already have the tiebreaker over Washington. So Washington can win, that's fine. Pushes San Francisco out of the way, and it lets us have that tiebreaker over the Washington football team. We have it over the Cardinals and Washington. That's huge. So you root for those teams to win, because you already know you have beat them. So you have the tiebreaker if you're even. So if all of that played out in that perfect scenario, where would the lines be sitting? The Lions would be 6-7. Minnesota would be 6-7. Arizona would be 6-7. San Francisco would be 5-7. Washington would be 6-7, and the Bears would be 5-8. You would have a tiebreaker over Arizona and Washington, and technically the only team you would be behind to sit in that playoff spot is Minnesota, because of the tiebreaker. You would have the same record. You'd technically be tied with Minnesota for a playoff spot. You just don't have the tiebreaker. And again, that's why the last game of the season is so important. So that's your rooting guide. That's who you should root for. Not all of that has to go as planned, but a lot of that can. I could see New York beat Arizona. I could definitely see Washington beat San Francisco. I could see Tampa Bay beat Minnesota. I could see all of these things playing out. Biggest one, Lions getting the win. That's the biggest one. If they don't, season's not over. But you can see the opportunity. They technically have an opportunity to be tied for a playoff spot after this weekend. So, can't ask for much more than that. Get it done. That's who you should root for. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out. Are you kidding me right now? I had to put my helmet on for this one. Are you kidding? Look at this. Look at all these members. What? Yo, hey, shout out to all the members, man. Look how many All-Pro members there are. Like, literally, it's the whole screen, dog. This is crazy. The patrons, of course, the Hall of Fame members, man. Y'all got the gold color. It's kind of yellow, but it's supposed to be gold. Shout out to all the members, man. If you want to be a part of this, all you got to do is join the channel. But there are perks that come with it. Stay locked in the community tab if you are a member, because that's where a lot of information comes out. I appreciate all of you. What?